do you say, everybody? With Jake Coker, I'm Mick Gillispie. It's time for the elephant in the room. Finally, part of Disrupt Media. And can't thank the guys at the next round enough for doing this. But, man, welcome to the studio.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate it. Very impressed. Very impressed. Didn't expect anything less, though.
Yeah, well, this is what I wanted you to come out here and be like, hey, this studio is pretty sweet. Well, I'm in Fairhope and you're in Mobile, so we got LA covered, right?
No, yeah, that's right. Both sides of the bay, as we call it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I guess before we even talk football, we're like mourning down here. We lost Jimmy Buffett.
I know. Mobile guy, pretty much.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. I still there. He had a concert down here. My mom wouldn't let me go to it. Supposed to go with a buddy of mine, and she said I had to get my ass home, so I'm still a little pissed about that. Never got to see him live.
And I didn't either. And I was in Key West last year, and he was performing, right? And I'm like, I'm jogging by the place where they're doing the concert. I'm thinking like, God, I'll just catch him like later because I'm here to work, you know. Yeah. And man, I can't believe that. I didn't see this coming.
I didn't even know he really had something wrong with him until the news broke that he passed away.
I know. Well, and like one of the legends of our state too, right? I mean, just look, when you think of Alabama, you think of South Alabama.
So he's got some history in Pascagoula too, right?
Yeah. I think
is that where he's originally from? And then he went to Murphy, I believe.
Yeah.
Mobile.
Mm-hmm. I think he started out in Pascagoula, and then he went to Mobile, and then his parents moved over here to Montrose, which is where we're at right now. And so when I got here, I'm at the Floribama, and a guy comes up, he's like, "Where do you live?" I'm like, "Well, I live in Fairhope," and then I'm like, "Well, I really live in Montrose." And he's like, "Montrose, like over by Judge Roy Beans, which isn't here anymore. You and I missed that." And
you might know this better than me. I've always asked, what bar is the Bama Breeze about?
That's about the
Floribama of bars.
Well, I think it's about the Floribama.
But he talks about Lulu being the owner.
Yeah, his sister.
At some point, yeah. And
I went to Lulu's yesterday.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah. I was out on the boat, and I was like, just kind of swung in there for one. Like it's part of the mourning process.
Yeah, that's right. They're still flying the flag at half mast.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
Yeah.
My heart's at half mast right now.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'd say. Well, the songs will mean a little bit more now.
Man, it's just hard to believe. Like,
as sad as that is.
Yeah, I mean, really, like the world, and everyone's kind of like throwing out all their stuff in there, like the world without Jimmy Buffett, right?
Oh yeah,
golly.
That's what it's cracking open the first beer down at the beach, playing golf with Bama Breeze playing. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I know, man. That's where we are right now. I mean, like Mobile on Sunday, they're having a parade for Jimmy Buffett at 4:00 if you're down here. So that I definitely feel the weight of we just lost the legend, in Alabama. So I don't know. I was thinking about like figuring out a really cool outfit to wear, just marching from the Riverview Hotel down to Moe's Barbecue.
We should have been drinking margaritas, and, a cheeseburger.
Yeah. Well, I do that a lot. I mean, look at this right here. So, well, let's talk some Alabama football. What'd you think of the game? Look, I got to tell you a couple things for me, and I'm going to let you kind of dig on this too. But I've noticed, and you played for Nick Saban. I feel like I'm a Nick Saban whisperer just because I can tell by having covered him since he got to Alabama that when he's relaxed, normally that means he's good on the lines.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird. I guess, I was thinking about this the other day, I guess about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, every college team pretty much named their starter, and that was the starter for the most part, for the rest of the year. And really in the last, I felt like when I got there was when if there was a quarterback battle, you really didn't know who the guy was going to be until Alabama played a significant team,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think it really helped to play those big opening games. Whereas, this year playing Middle Tennessee, and no disrespect to Middle Tennessee, but I mean, we obviously know that Alabama's going to be favored and probably win by a lot of points. I don't feel like you see everything you need to see from your quarterback when you play teams like that. It's almost like one of those deals where, you know, you see what you're supposed to see and let's move on to Texas. So, I mean, look, Jalen, I think, has gotten so much better in 1 year based off what I saw just in the Middle Tennessee game. You know, we'll see what happens against Texas, but man, to me, he managed the pocket well, got the ball out, did what he was supposed to do, and looked to me a lot more comfortable than he did last year.
Yeah. Well, did you go through a quarterback battle? I know I remember, but I don't remember.
Oh yeah. I mean, my first year at Alabama, Blake Sims was named the starter.
That's right.
And then the year after that, I was named the starter for the first game. We beat Wisconsin, played Middle Tennessee, and then Cooper Bateman started the Ole Miss game. And then, you know, things worked out where I got put back in there, and we still ultimately lost that game. But, you know, after that, I was a starter for the rest of the year.
Yeah, what's that like? I mean, how do those go? I mean, is it pretty pressure-packed?
Man, you know, for me, I think I thought, you know, put too much weight into it, even though it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you transfer in from Florida State, and at that time, there was a lot of hype around me. And, you know, when I didn't get it the first time competing against Blake, and man, Blake was a great quarterback, obviously put up a lot of record numbers. You know, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself and didn't quite – I think I got caught up in the moment a little bit too much. And finally, when that spot's given to you at, you know, after the Ole Miss game in my situation, you kind of relax and play and know that everybody's got your back at that point. You can make a few mistakes. But, yeah, when I got thrown into the Ole Miss game, I think at that point I didn't give a shit what happened.
Yeah,
you
right.
Bench me again next game. I could go out here and just, you know, slinging around wherever I wanted to. And if I played, I played. If not, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like with life too, you know, like sometimes you just got to get to that point where you're like, hey.
Well, I think you operate the best when you just don't give a shit whether you win or lose.
No, I agree with you. I mean, really, like I'm really good friends with Jared Kingery, who pitched for Alabama, and he was telling me about, you know, the pressure of playing for Jim Wells, and he just got to the point where he's like, you know, you go out there and do it better than me.
Yeah.
And Jim loved that because he stood up to him, but he also was that point where he became one of the best pitchers in Alabama history. They ended up in the World Series against LSU, and he said that was the thing that turned his career around. He's like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, Jimbo and Coach Saban always talked about not being afraid to fail, and you know, I guess until you embrace that, you know, you can't really go after what you want to. And I mean, hey, kind of like this podcast. Jim, you know, called me. He says, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" And this thing could flop in a month. I don't know. We'll see, but we'll have fun doing it.
I think we're going to do good. It's going to be fun. So when you like kind of see the quarterback battle going on, though, you're probably like thinking like, "Hey, I know exactly what they're thinking right now."
No, you don't. I mean, that Ole Miss game. I remember we practiced, you know, that whole week prior. Cooper and I, we shared reps, traded reps, and I mean, I had been the starter for the first two games, but when that happens, you don't know who's going to start, and there really wasn't a whole lot of communication on who the guy was going to be between us and the coaching staff, and so I didn't know who was starting until I think Friday before the game.
So when they say, "Hey, we don't really know who's starting of the three guys," right? Booker or Sims or Milroe, you believe that? Like they just you just go out there and practice.
Oh yeah, I believe it 100%. I think they have a good feeling, but you know, until somebody makes them make a decision at some point during the year, I think I think Coach Saban kind of leaves it up for grabs until that guy grabs, you know, an ownership role of the team.
So you felt like after the Ole Miss game for you're like, it just changed. Like they knew you were the guy, and you knew you were the guy.
Yeah, I mean, well, Coach Saban told me that, and I mean, we had just lost to Ole Miss, and so we were pretty low as far as morale goes. And you know, at that point, I was just like, you know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and hopefully the team respects me trying to lead this team, and if not, we'll just play football. And I think, I wasn't, up for a Heisman Trophy or anything. I mean, I was just trying to facilitate the ball and win games. Had a lot of good players around me, and I just felt like, again, and the best way for me to lead was just be as physical a quarterback as you could and put your body out on the line and try to do that as much as possible. I felt like the team responded.
Yeah, no doubt. I remember being in a stoplight and somebody was like panicking. Alabama lost. I had to get back to the studio to do the post game show for Tide Radio back then, and I said, "Hey, man, it's one game. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. Just relax. We're going to be all right." Like, I didn't know if that was true or not. I mean, maybe the sun wasn't going to come back up. But Nick Saban always seems to be a coach who almost expects to have that one loss so that he can kind of like say,
I think he kind of likes it.
I think too. I know it's a weird thing, right?
Ever since then, watching Alabama, I'm like, if we lose within the first 3 or 4 games, it might not be a bad thing. Just checking everybody at the door, and then you got to get right, and you can't screw up anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I felt like that too. And then I was telling you before we started doing this, I sat next to Mike Johnson and Baron Huber at that championship game. And every time you guys, it was a crazy game. So still, I think one of the best games I ever went to. And every time something would happen, those guys would just pound me because that's what they do. And I didn't know if I was going to make it out of there alive. So those great Alabama memories.
Oh yeah.
But and when you look at this program, were you an Alabama fan growing up?
I was a huge Alabama fan. If you had told me that I was going to go to Florida State,
how did that happen?
With an Alabama offer in hand when I was 5, 10, 15 years old, I'd have been like, "You've lost your freaking mind."
Yeah, right.
And no, I was going to camps, and at first, Jeremy Pruitt told me that they had all the quarterbacks they needed, at that point, which was like into my junior year,
right? And
so I kind of wrote Alabama off, and didn't think that would ever be a possibility. And as soon as I went to the Florida State camp, my first offer was from Hugh Freeze at Arkansas State.
Nice.
And
hey, he's back.
Man, I think he's great. Yeah, I mean,
I know, I do too. We can respect him on this podcast. Yeah. Can we? Is he the elephant in the room? We know he's the coach of Auburn. Trust me. Right. We're not pulling for them to win any games. But
he was the last guy I wanted him to hire at Auburn.
Yeah, me too. Sure. I like Brian Harsin. He was doing great. When I saw him in there with all the 2 stars, I'm like, this is the guy that we need leading Auburn. It reminded me of being at Galette's and the Auburn fans coming in for the Iron Bowl back during all the losing. And they're like, "We love Mike Schuler." Well, of course you love Mike Schuler. I'm sure you do.
That's right. Oh, gosh. Anyway, I was making the camp rounds, and I had one offer from Arkansas State, and I thought Ole Miss was going to offer me. They did not, back in the Houston Nut Day. And then I went to a camp at Florida State, and Damian Craig's the quarterback coach, and Jimbo's the head coach. And I threw for one day, and they called me up and offered me a scholarship, and I was like, "That's insane."
Right. So you would get a little respect.
Oh yeah,
like Rodney Dangerfield said, just one of the middle of respect.
Yeah, for a guy to just see me throw one day and offer me, and I know they had Coach Craig had seen me, practice and all that. Oh, yeah. I don't even know if he had seen me play a game yet. Yeah. But anyway, to offer me after Jimbo saw me one day, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is," and I revered Jimbo. I still do. I think he's one of the best quarterback coaches in the country.
Yeah, right.
But they offered me, and it was like, I committed a week later, maybe.
Yeah, right. It just was an easy fit for you back then.
That's right. And then Alabama came on, and they offered me, and it's funny because Jeremy Pruitt was. I love Jeremy to death. He recruited me to Alabama, and then he's at Florida State. He's the Florida State defensive coordinator where I'm there, and then He was actually defense coordinator at Georgia when we played him, and then he ended up at Alabama at the end of my senior year.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, I love him to death, but I was committed. I wanted to hold true to my commitment, and then there was definitely some second thoughts in there. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to grow up an Alabama fan and know what it means to the state to not.
No, you see what's going on, and you're
yeah.
like, "Hey, I got to be part of this."
All my high school classmates were like, "You're a dumbass. Why aren't you going to
Alabama?
What are you doing, man?
What are you doing?"
I was like, "Am I a dumbass?"
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, now you're part of history.
No, I wouldn't have traded the journey for anything.
No doubt. Hey guys, as you hang out, don't forget Lance's Locks. If you make picks, and and I know a lot of you guys that are hanging out there do. Check out Lance's Locks. LT, he's on it, and he's going to give you all the information that you need. So when you're you're making those picks, you'll at my bookie, by the way, LT can help you get there. And we appreciate you being here for part of Elephant in the Room, the Roll Tide podcast series on the next round with Jay Coker, I'm Mick Gillispie, and this is fun. I mean, we're just breaking the ice here. We're just trying to get.
You got a long way to go.
Yeah, we got a whole season of football to talk about. So this year's team, Middle Tennessee. Did you get anything out of watching? Like we'll start with the quarterback play. I mean, obviously Milroe was really good, but it was also an inferior opponent. And then Booker came in second. I think that was a big surprise to a lot of people. Not to me. I'd heard that he's really pushed hard for the job. Plus, he was the quarterback at Notre Dame with Tom Reese. So he knows the
I heard
system.
he was coming to Alabama. When your OC comes to Alabama, and then the guy that you've been coaching for, what is he, a red shirt freshman?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been coaching for 2 years. When he comes, usually, in my mind, I was thinking, well, this guy is.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, the verbiage of the offense is going to change. Coach Saban's got his offense in place, and OCs make their adjustments accordingly. But I just thought, that was his guy, and he was probably going to give him a good opportunity to start. So, but sounds like it's still going on. We'll find out after Texas, what ends up happening. But I've heard, Ty Simpson, I've heard a lot of good things. Buckner, a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Jalen. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I guess. You got 3 guys that can play, and you're just picking between 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah, right. And then two freshmen that are back there too. 5 quarterbacks. I mean, how many times has Alabama ever had 5 quarterbacks on scholarship?
I think there was 5 when I was
when
there.
You were there. Who were the 5?
You had Cooper Bateman, Alec Morris, me, Blake Barnett, and David Cornwell.
Oh wow! Yeah, I remember all those names.
My senior year,
yes, Pete.
And Blake, the year prior, Blake was in there instead of Blake. So
yeah, right, yeah. It goes by so fast,
Well,
it's just thinking about this.
People forget. I mean, you follow recruiting throughout. A lot of people do. I tend to not, just because of this reason, but I mean, you have 5 quarterbacks in a room. I mean, most of your guys that you recruit are not going to end up playing.
Yeah, right.
And so you got all these good quarterbacks and that are coming out of high school, and everybody thinks, they're going here, they're going to play. And I mean, the odds of you playing in college unless you transfer are not very high.
And you're friends with those guys too. Like, you're in there and you're friends with them. Like, how's the quarterback room when you're in a race to see who's going to play, but you're still buddies with the other guys, right? Or is it not like that? Is it more like, hey, you know what, I'm over here and you're over there?
No, everyone that I've been in has always been really friendly. I mean, there's a mutual respect between all those guys. I mean, I think everybody kind of, they know the role. I mean, it's everybody's there to win the job, and you kind of understand the intensity on the field.
Yeah.
But off the field, I think that kind of goes away, and everybody's trying to help each other. That's how it was. Every experience that I've had has been that way. Yeah, yeah.
You had some pretty good running backs. This team's got some pretty good running backs too, right?
Yeah, we had one that was. I mean, we had a bunch that were really good, but Derek had the Heisman Trophy year that year.
Yeah, yeah.
Kenyon was a beast. I mean,
everybody kept getting hurt, and you're like, all right, we'll just keep giving Derrick Henry the ball.
Oh yeah, well, Kenyon. Geez, we had him. He got hurt a couple times, and I mean, he had 2 full years of without injuries, there's no telling what he would have done.
Right, he's been great in the NFL. I mean, you had a bunch of guys in the NFL play with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about especially that defense. I mean, I would imagine I think all 11 starters, the majority of them may still be in the NFL right now.
Right.
And that was 8 years ago.
Yeah. Is there a lot of pressure like with this team now because they haven't won since 2020? It's like to win a championship. And how do you do that when you got to kind of, like Nick Saban says, you got to take it one game at a time? Or are you even thinking that? I mean, is it the process? Do they really buy into the process?
I think you get caught up so much in what you're doing every day. There's definitely some outside pressure. And I think there's probably a little bit more now that Georgia is kind of, I mean, they've won back-to-back. And I know they hear Georgia's the new Alabama.
That's good for Saban.
Oh, yeah. We used to call Georgia Bama 2.0 because they kept trying to copy everything we did, and we'd still, beat them every year. But now, I mean, I knew Kirby was going to be just an animal as far as the head coach goes. I mean, he'd been under Coach Saban for, I think, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I'm sure he's modeled a lot of that program off of Alabama. But he was just different in the way that he approached things, his intensity on the field. I mean, he was all football, and you just knew he was going to be really successful.
Yeah, going into this game against Texas, I mean, I feel like I hate to say it, but I mean, Sark, another former Alabama assistant on the offensive side of the football, he's able to recruit. The program that Texas is building, they're trying to get it close to Alabama. I mean, it's not going to be, like what Kirby did. Like I always said that Georgia reminded me of that Brad Paisley song, Old Alabama, then they won back-to-back championships. I got to find a new joke, but this game on Saturday feels like it's such a pivotal game. I mean, I watch Duke kick the crap out of Clemson, right?
Oh, yeah.
I see Florida State destroy LSU. And in the second half, I mean, it wasn't even close. So I must feel like there's kind of this shifting going on in college football. And I feel like for Alabama, like they really have to be at their best at this game, because if they lose, I mean, not only recruiting, but just all the goals that they have set out in front of them, I mean, could be lost.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's that, and I think Alabama and Clemson are two different animals. I think over the last few years, Clemson's kind of been on that downhill, decline. And whereas Alabama, I just feel like they're one or two pieces away from winning the whole thing. And, we'll have to see Saturday, but I don't think this is going to be of course, this isn't Duke either, but that line's -7.
Yeah.
I think the Texas side is the sucker side, to say the least.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, when you saw Alabama and Texas play last year, it was almost a barometer on like the season, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that was the issue that we were having. What we're going to have all year was playing close games, not finishing off opponents, penalties. It was also on the road too. But
we looked like, Pro Bowlers when it mattered. And then, first, second quarter, whatever. I mean, it was like, why can't we just play like the last 2 minutes of the game for all 4 quarters?
Yeah, right.
That's how it felt for me.
Yeah, right.
Year,
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, and some bad calls here and there, but we were so used to seeing Alabama be dominant. And my question, I guess, is when I watch the game on Saturday, are we going to get that again? I mean, we're going to see dominant Alabama, or is what we saw last year the direction that this program's going?
Yeah, I mean, to me, especially defensively, offenses have changed so much. You have to defend so much, and all your players have to know. I mean, they have to be dialed into what they're doing, and they have to be as skillful as the guy that they're responsible for. And, the days of lining up and running the ball and dominating people or playing Alabama that way is just, not going to work. There's so much more lateral movement and creative offenses that it's just hard to match. I mean, you can get everybody where they're supposed to be, but unless they're, just as skillful as the guy they're responsible for. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. What do you think the strength of this football team is going to be? And it's been one game, but when you watch that game on Saturday, what do you think? Hey, look, this is what they're going to rely on.
To me, honestly, they looked pretty well balanced. Jalen, I think, threw the ball 18 times, which isn't a ton in today's world. But when he threw it, he was making the most of each throw. So again, when Texas dials up the pressure and you got guys that are 5 stars too, we're really going to find out, how he responds and how he's getting through his reads.
Yeah. When you guys won the championship, I felt like after that game, like Alabama was like set on changing what had always worked, right? Where you were running the ball and then and playing defense. And it felt like Saban was like, okay, we got to have more offense. We needed Lane Kiffin and all this other stuff. And then Georgia took the playbook that Alabama won with, and now they've won back-to-back championships. And I feel like now we're going, hey, wait a second, maybe we effed up here. We should have just kept doing what we were doing, right? Does it feel like that to you?
Again, I think defensively it's become so hard to dominate. When we won it in 2016, you were not going to run the ball against our defense.
No.
We could score, 14 points and have a pretty good chance of winning the game just because, outside of Clemson, there's really nobody. Ole Miss, they had, the ricochet off the helmet and the guy down. They had all kinds of crazy shit going on. But
you're talking. I'm going to go fill my beer. You good, or you need some more?
That's right.
I'm listening though.
I'll take some more.
Let me get a refill. I'm listening though. I'm with you on it.
No, it's just a different game, and I don't think you're going to have the games. You may, but I don't see physically dominating an offense anymore just because quarterbacks get the ball out of their hands so quickly, and it's just so hard to defend that many different scenarios.
Here you go. When you have your own kegerator, that's good. You do half pours because you can just go back and pour some more, right?
Yeah. I like the studio. That's what makes it.
Yeah, right. I'm the bartender here. Like I feel like this season is so pivotal for the program. And is Nick Saban timeless? Like every time I turn around, it's like I look at him and he doesn't really look like he's aged a whole lot. I had an appendectomy in April and I look like 40 years older, Like why isn't that like Nick Saban? I look at him and I'm like, man, he kind of looks younger now than he did 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think he's got that, and it's the same. I don't know if we were talking on the show or not, but I was talking about the coordinators and coaches that are at Colorado now.
Oh yeah,
which I played for there at FSU or Alabama.
I had a Deion Sanders jersey, by the way, as a kid.
Did you?
Throwing that out there, yeah. I like the high step, but
yeah. So a bunch of those guys and Coach Saban, they've got that personality, that kind of old man jokes, but personality that just works for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll ever not be able to recruit. And obviously, his car was the last one in the parking lot every night.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Practice.
He loves it.
Oh yeah, he was, I think, in his late 60s at that point. And he's won 4 national championships. And anyway,
Skip Powers. You remember Skip? He worked for Alabama. He's like one of the.
Yeah.
He's one of my buddies. He would tell me about working with Nick Saban. He's gone now, so I can say that. But they always make me laugh. Like, what is it about Nick Saban that he loves this so much?
He'd get up there and the speeches before every practice. There was always something in there, and he would rarely laugh at his own jokes, but like sometimes some of these things I can't repeat, but it's just like he'd say, and you would be dying laughing. You'd lose track of where he was in the meeting because you'd just be laughing for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The guy is just he's way funnier than he leads everybody on to believe.
Yeah, that was something that Mike Johnson told me being on the show. We spent so many hours together on radio talking about Nick Saban, and I'm like, man, I don't get that, But then sometimes you see it in the press conferences, and he's like, man, I've had success in my life, and he's like, I don't know that I would have had the success that I've had he not been in it. which is outside of football. I mean, and I know Mike now, shout out on the pre and post game for the Falcons, his NFL teams, is back in broadcasting. Yeah, good for him. So anyone in Atlanta, make sure that you check him out. But I always think about that. Like there's more to him than the guy that is yelling at Ian Rappaport and the press conference. Like he's actually a pretty good guy.
Oh yeah, I mean I love Coach Saban to death, and every time I see him, he's always. I mean it's all smiles and he's like that guy that you see, and even if you hadn't seen him in a while, it's just like a comforting feeling because he's the same guy. He's in control and he's just one of a kind.
Yeah. What do you think he's got to do to get this team where he wants them, or do you think he's got them where he wants them by his laid back demeanor this year? Because you know how it is when he's not happy. I don't think he can hide it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think. Again, I can't remember the stat, but the first year quarterback, team wins the national championship a high percentage of the time. I think that kind of helps, honestly, with the whole team getting their mind right, feeling like, we got to all do our jobs to help carry this team through and win. Not a whole lot of star players. I mean, there's obviously some big names, but, there's not a Bryce Young. And Bryce, best quarterback's ever played at Alabama, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
what made him the best?
The way the guy felt everything in the pocket, the way he moved, I mean, his anticipation. There's nobody I haven't seen in college football that makes plays the way he does with his arm.
You're watching and you're going, man, I couldn't do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's guys that can just run. There's guys that can stand back there and throw. But, I mean, as creative as he was, keeping his eyes downfield, he's the Patrick Mahomes of college football.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
I mean, and just a solid guy, But again, I feel like there's, not a whole lot of superstars on that team. I think everybody's just going to be one solid unit. From what I'm hearing over the summertime, I mean, this team's got their mind right and they're focused. I've seen it. Sometimes there's leadership on teams that doesn't quite pull them, through the finish line.
Right.
But it seems like they're building towards that way.
Yeah. And so, like when you see Coach Saban is relaxed, you realize like he's relaxed because he's not having to tell these guys how to do the basic stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have to tell the seniors, hey, get this guy right.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody gets out of line, the seniors handle it and it's over. It's a done deal.
Right.
And they kind of weed out everything themselves.
Yeah.
To have that leadership is hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and how cool was it when you played, to be able to kind of be part of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was kind of later on in my senior year, just because, I
just the way it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was surprised that, one of the proudest accomplishments I've ever had was been voted captain on my senior year of that team. And I was surprised being there for 2 years and just coming in that the guys felt, that way, and it meant a lot to me. But to be able to accomplish that and be seen as a guy, as a leader in that room, I mean, that means when your peers vote you, captain or leader, it means more to you than anything.
So what are you looking for on Saturday? What are the things that if you gave like the Jake Coker keys to victory for Alabama? I mean, like if that was a thing. I love the sound of that.
Nowadays,
my son's name's Jake, by the way. I love that name. I got one that might run through the door any second. But yeah, give me the keys to victory.
I mean, I think again, establishing the run game is always the most important thing from an offensive side of the ball. Jalen's just. Again, I kind of hate the saying of, just don't turn the ball over, which, you hear all the time when a Alabama quarterback's playing because of the guys around him. But just play with it himself and, focus on the reads, get through them, understand when pressure's coming, get the ball out. And again, don't just press for big plays,
Yeah.
And just let the game take care of itself, let it come to you.
One of the weirdest things that I kept hearing people say that I kind of get is it might be better for Alabama not to have a superstar quarterback and a superstar defensive player like Bill Anderson Jr. and obviously Bryce Young. Just because I feel like one of the things that always made Nick Saban good, and I'm going back to when he was at LSU. I remember when Alabama had that streak of kicking the shit out of LSU.
Oh, yeah.
Down there. I mean, I was a student, and I went to those games, and I loved it. I loved the fact that, and then he comes to town and is like, hey, you know what? We don't even care about that stuff, right? He's at LSU. And I'm like, who's this nerd, you know? and then I'm like watching the game, and I'm like, that guy, like the guy off the bench is the guy playing, and then we lose, you know? And it was like, okay, well, that was over. And the thing that I got out of it was, you know, you look at those teams, and you're not going, okay, there was a superstar. It was like a team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, Derek was a superstar on our team, but you never felt like it was I guess there were so many leaders on that team. I mean, you think about that defense. I mean, if you weren't playing hard or if you didn't do right, and we had Ashawn Robinson, Jonathan Allen, Ron Payne, Ryan Anderson. I mean, you were genuinely a little nervous about getting your ass whipped.
Yeah. Did you see those guys a lot in practice? Did they get after you a little bit?
Well, I mean.
And you had a great offensive line, too.
Oh, yeah. It was like when we played Michigan State in the Cotton Bowl. I remember, you know, we're sitting there, we're getting ready to return a punt, and we're looking up at the screen, and you see Connor Cook, and he goes, I mean, he's pissed. You know, they can't do anything because that defense is so good. You just see him looking at a teammate, and he goes, they're effing everywhere. Welcome to a good practice.
Yeah. I've been dealing with this all year. I love Jonathan Allen. He's one of my favorite. He might be my favorite Alabama player. One of them.
He's great.
I loved him.
He is great. I mean, those guys used to get, I mean, we'd beat a team by like 40 points, and we'd be on the plane back. And all those interior D linemen, there's like a constant struggle to be the best within the group, and they're all friends.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
They're all great guys. I mean, it would get to like personal like arguments, and coaches had to step in. They didn't want to beat the shit out of each other, and we just won by 40 points.
Yeah,
right. This team's got a chance.
Yeah, it might be pretty good. Yeah. No, I thought that defense was awesome to watch.
Oh yeah, to be that good and that competitive. I mean, it was again. As a quarterback, made you feel really good to know those guys were on your squad. Yeah.
Well, look, I feel like Dallas Turner could fit in with those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you know, he's been that player who has kind of been like, hey, look, we didn't hold up to our standard last year.
Yeah.
And it almost takes a guy like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to have assholes on the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have them on offense, too. You got to have guys that you look at and you're like, you're a little crazy, you know. And we had plenty of them, and it was great. You know, but in order to win, you got to have some guys that are just, you know, so competitive that it's borderline, it's across the line.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah, right. That's you got a championship ring.
Oh yeah, that's.
Do you ever
right.
wear it? I got one too, a Cubs one. I don't ever wear it, but I didn't play.
Yeah,
do you ever wear that thing?
I don't.
Like every time you wear it, like, I'm not doing it. You know,
this is not comfortable.
No, it's too big, but at the same time, like there's certain places you're like, maybe I'm going to wear this today, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, you played on one of the really, like I said, I moved that picture so that it would be there next to you today, you know, so you can remember all that. Daniel Moore. Our show's brought to you by Lance's Lock. So as you get on MyBookie and make your picks for this weekend, check out Lance's Lock, and we appreciate all you guys hanging out with us here. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to do this a whole lot more, but I've been so excited about getting together and just getting this thing started, and you know, I watched the next round like everyone else. And
oh yeah.
So I'm so glad they asked us to do this because it doesn't really feel like work.
No, that's right. That's right. I tell you, I was a little nervous about, you know, I couldn't believe they asked me to be on here. I was like, man, that's kind of like, you know, having Dunaway as your partner in a two-man scramble, man. You're in trouble.
Yeah, drinking on the job. But look, that's part of it, right? It's Roll Tide Pods. So you guys make sure that you like and subscribe and hang out with us. And this is the Elephant in the Room podcast. I feel like we need to give them 5 more minutes, 5 more good minutes before we wrap it up. But I'm excited about this game on Saturday because I feel like what. Just finish that for me.
Well, honestly, I mean, I will be. This is one of those games, we talk about, the Power 5 and non-Power 5 and big schools playing each other. But, I mean, Alabama, Texas, that might be the best matchup historically. Maybe, Alabama, Notre Dame or Alabama, Georgia, Auburn. I'm not putting Auburn in that group, but, Alabama, Texas,
great uniform
history.
Game.
I mean that.
Do you like uniforms?
Oh yeah, I love the classics.
Yeah, me
Penn
too.
State,
Penn State,
Alabama,
me too.
Tennessee.
Even
though it's a terrible color, it's a
Yeah, it's cool. No, I'm with you, man. Like I got
the
friends.
checkerboard end zone.
Yeah. Like people in Tennessee are like, why can't we wear orange jerseys and you wear crimson like we used to? I'm like, I'm in for that.
Oh yeah, no,
we're not gonna look. Tennessee. They are wearing a gray uniform with like orange up top and doing all this weird stuff. We're never doing that.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got a picture up there of Joe Namath with a white helmet with crimson, like lettering. We don't even do that.
Yeah. Oh no, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's Bear Bryant standing there with him. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, once you change it, it's almost just a slap in the face. To the history.
I remember this. Jim Wells said this one time. They wanted to do something different with some of the baseball uniforms, and Jim, when they did, and then Alabama lost, and he's like, I feel like we just got out of Hibbett's. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what we're all about,
Well, imagine being the guy who puts the Oregon uniform together.
Yeah, right. Like, it's like when you see people jog out and they're wearing the wrong uniform. I've seen that before. Like, it's like, hey, we're wearing blue and you got your gray on. Like,
he's like, here we go.
Yeah, right. Like, there's 10 uniforms in there. What am I supposed to wear? Like at Alabama, it's not about the uniform. The uniform is supposed to be the same.
Right? Yeah, we're just coming out there, roll the ball out, and we're gonna play.
Yeah. So when you got from Florida State and you get to Alabama, how cool was it to wear that uniform for the first time?
Oh man, it was crazy. I mean, it's one of those deals. I remember, telling my dad when I was too young to even play football, it was, I want to be the quarterback of Alabama one day, and pretending to be at that point, it was Zal or Tyler Watts or.
That's when you were a kid?
Oh yeah,
that's when I was in college. That was my day, man. That's when I need to go back here and hit the kegerator. Like, you're like, how old were you?
I mean, let's see. That was 99.
Yeah, that was 99, my senior year.
I was 7.
You're 7. I can pour you a beer legally. I was already drinking.
You had shots back there?
Yeah, I took, my wife will tell you, I just took the alcohol out of here. I just left it with the beer. But no, that was my senior year. I like the Watts and Andrew Zal combo, like the safety. That was the first time that Alabama ever won the Iron Bowl in Auburn, and I
forget that.
Yeah, and so
the game.
I scalped a ticket to get into that game, and what's great about the Iron Bowl is it really doesn't matter what the records are as far as the ticket prices. Like people might say, well, it doesn't matter, but if we know we're going to kick your ass, we're all coming. So the prices aren't going down. Like we're showing up. But I was on a very fixed income back then, no money, and some guy gave me a ticket, an Alabama ticket to get in. I was outside begging to get in there, and then just watching the safety and us beating them down there. Sean Alexander sliding through and scoring. Those are great days.
Well, see, my heyday of childhood pulling for Alabama was the Fear the Thumb years. And so
I remember those.
Oh, and
that's why I don't pity Auburn.
Oh no. So my dad and I were the only Alabama fans in the family. The rest were all Auburn. All
man.
I mean,
Couldn't do
cousins.
it.
Oh, so that the 1 year I remember where Alabama won in that age, we beat them like 31-7.
That was great.
Oh yeah, and I was,
Upset. No one saw that coming.
I was probably 8 years old.
Yeah.
And talking shit to my cousins. Got my first real just ass whipping by the whole family.
Hey, you came in, you're like, hey, you did women's basketball. I did. I broadcasted women's basketball for Alabama.
No, I saw.
You saw it. Well, I'm going to tell you the story.
No,
I did. And the coach, when I was there, the coach was Wendell Hudson. And I love. No, it's not a shot. I'm just telling you, like he was one of the best guys I ever met. Like he played basketball at Alabama, and I love him. Like I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was best friends with Mal Moore. So plane rides, I sit next to him. Like I honestly, I didn't want to do it. Like I got to that point where I was like, like this job doesn't pay a whole lot. Like no one listens to these games. Like, but I loved hanging out with him.
Yeah,
and he made my life awesome. Like we had a blast. And I would sit next to him on the plane, and it was during the thumb era. Like we're losing every year, and so the funny story is like Mal Moore is leaving Auburn, and we're in the midst of an ass whooping again, and the Auburn fans are heckling him, and that's why he flew to Saban's house and wasn't leaving. Like you're getting it at home. Think about it. He's just trying to get out of there. I mean, he's coached with Bear Bryant, and he's done all this stuff. And these people are giving him the hell that was like, I'm not leaving. Miss Terry, you're going to have to get the police to get me out of here. And think about how it's changed history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think he probably woke up every morning at, Miami watching one of the Iron Bowl games every morning just to get motivated.
Think about like, you remember when they finally ended that streak? It was like unbelievable.
I can breathe.
Oh, I can't. And I didn't get to go to that one. I missed a lot of games working for Crimson Tide Sports Network because, as the guy on the bottom of the totem pole, really low guy, when good stuff was happening, I was filling in for the stuff that didn't matter. Okay. So I'm just doing women's basketball. I mean, more stuff that don't matter. And then, at least it didn't feel like that, not many people were watching. And so I'm like out somewhere, and we come back in 2008. And I just remember we flew in from somewhere, and we get to Tuscaloosa, and it was like the party of the century had just happened.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just crap laying all over the place, empty beer cans and, for miles. And I'm like, I don't know who's cleaning this up, but I've just missed. You know what I mean? Like, I just missed the party of a lifetime here. And then, now, and thankfully now, we might win. If we win this year, it's going to be like our first 4-game winning streak against them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember just like that. The year Brody got hurt and Prothro got hurt, and they had, Jason Campbell and Ronnie Brown and Carnell and Anthony Mix, all these guys. Yeah. I just remember, I'll just pass on watching this.
the Prothro injury to me is why I've been so pro NIL.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I loved him too.
Yeah.
I still do. And I told him that when I saw him. I said, you're one of. I mean, I have a handful of guys that I loved, and he's one of them. And it's a shame because this guy could have made millions of dollars in the NFL. I really believe that.
Oh yeah. I wish there was a little bit of limitation there in terms of, and I know there's rules and all that.
Right.
But if you could make the money organically, rather than a school promising you this or we'll get you this, Well, he would have been one of those guys.
Though.
Oh yeah.
Think about it. And Saban's talked about this a lot, and he's right. Like, it's supposed to be the guys that have earned that opportunity, and not to, not what we're seeing in other schools, and maybe even at Alabama. I don't even know, but where it's like, hey, we're just going to pay you to show up and play football. He was a star.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. no telling what would have happened in the NFL. I mean, I know he was smaller, but I mean, my gosh, he was a national sensation that year.
Yeah. I mean, he could have returned kicks and maybe been a slot receiver, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, he would have had an NFL career for sure.
Yeah.
But nowadays guys are like that. Caleb Williams, I saw the other day. They said his dad said he doesn't like his, got the first round pick or first pick overall.
I'll go back to school.
He's probably going to knock back $3 million. I mean,
like
now
Bo
I see him on all these commercials. There's a Wendy's commercial every 5 minutes. Him and Matt Leinart.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, and it's legal. I saw Bryce Young on a lot of commercials last year. Like, I'm buying a Hyundai. I guess Bryce Young's got one. Yeah. All right, fine. We got to wrap it up. I just, our producer that we don't have is telling me to cut it up. Just give me your breakdown. Alabama and Texas on Saturday. What are you expecting to see?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. When I first got done playing, I'd gamble on some games, and I still gamble a little bit on some of these games. But at first, I know a bunch of coaches, and I wouldn't ask, oh, y'all cover the spread. I just, hey man, do y'all feel pretty good about this game or something like that? And it was like, one game in particular, I won't name which one, but they're like, oh man, our quarterback's out. We got nobody. We're about to get smoked. It might be over in the second quarter. And I was like, oh, hammer the opposite side.
Yeah, right.
And I'm telling all my buddies that, and then upset of the century. And you're like, all right, well, I've never listened to a coach again. so if I had anything to say, I would say Texas, I think, is the sucker side. So
Roll Tide. Look, I honestly feel like this is a game where we're going to see what Alabama's all about. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're going to see this defense. And I loved the fact that Middle Tennessee couldn't get to the corners.
Yeah. That's
something that we didn't see last year.
Yeah.
There were too many plays where guys would get out of the corner and break big runs. The other thing that I liked was that Alabama made a lot of tackles. Like, they didn't miss tackles.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I want to see is, a lot of is just the pocket being pushed and make Quinn Ewers move around or get the ball out a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Last year, I know, obviously he got hurt, but, that first part of the game, I felt like he had time to get back there and make decisions. There were a couple bit deep balls he hit on. But I tell you, the worst feeling in the world is to be back there and the interior of the line just collapsing on you.
Right.
Because, you can't step up. There's really nowhere to go but out of the pocket. And so I'd love to see them just dominate up front and get the offensive line on their toes.
Yeah.
And then offensively, I honestly think it's kind of like we were talking earlier. This team doesn't have a lot of superstars. Everybody's out to prove themselves, and I think it's a very team-like atmosphere. And again, not saying it wasn't that way in the last couple of years, but it just seems to have that feel where everybody's out to prove themselves and they're going to play as a unit. And I think Alabama's going to win by more than 7 points.
Oh, I love it. I feel the same way too. Yeah, I think it's like
I'm excited. I think it's the quarterback battles. I don't. To me, I look at it. Well, you got a few guys that have the potential to take this team to the national championship, rather than we can't find it.
Yeah, right.
So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good year.
34-14 for me. That's my mix. Lance's lock. You got to go to Lance's lock to find out what he thinks, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games where we're going to freight train him late.
That's what I'm going to go 28-17. Texas scores a late touchdown just to
kind of keep it where it looks kind of respectable.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, guys, don't forget Lance's lock. Again, our friend LT, and if you're going to MyBookie or wherever you make your picks, he can help you out there. And thanks for hanging out with us, Roll Tide Pods. We're going to be back. This is only our first show. It feels like honestly, it feels like we've been doing this for years, doesn't it?
Well, you have done baseball for a long time, so you got to. I'm sure you got to fill a lot of gaps in action. You're really good at it.
Yeah,
for sure.
But look, did you have fun?
I did.
I told you we're gonna have fun. Like it could be a rough season for Alabama, but we're winning the championship in here.
We'll find somebody to talk to after that, right?
We got a kegerator.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. And again, make sure that you tell your friends about our podcast, spread the word out there, and we'll be back, I guess, after the game. We'll talk to you
Sunday or Monday?
Yeah, Sunday or Monday about this thing and figure out what Alabama did. And the best part about this schedule, Jake, is that we got another big game next week and then another big game next week. And then we're not playing the Georgia schedule. So there's going to be a lot to talk about here. All right, guys, thanks so much, and roll tide, everybody.